The South Pacific. The first Europeans to sail these waters took back to their chilly northern homes stories of islands of paradise, where the warm sea abounds with fish, coconuts drop from the trees, and life is easy. The islands lie thickest in the southwest, but the explorers soon found that the people who lived here were far from gentle innocents wandering through a Garden of Eden. Some were headhunters, others cannibals, and they were all haunted, even tormented, by their gods. The people of Melanesia, as this part of the world is called, created numberless images of their spirits. They constructed them from bark cloth, they wove them from fibre, they carved them in wood and hung them with human hair. Some resembled human beings, some creatures that have never been seen in the natural world. Many of the people who created these things stopped doing so long ago. Their islands were small and easily policed by government officers and missionaries. But there are also large islands in the South Pacific, some so big that even today few outsiders have visited the people living in the interior. One such lies in the New Hebrides, Malekula. The only roads in Malekula run round the coast, and then only in short, unconnected lengths. Inland, rivers alone break the carpet of dense jungle. Villages are very difficult to see from the air, so deeply buried are they in the tall forest. That brown spot is, in fact, the roof of a hut, all that can be seen of a whole settlement. This is the heart and also the highest point of Malekula. Only a handful of outsiders have ever been here, and the reason's not difficult to discover. The journey is not an easy one. You have to wade across rivers 26 times, I know because I counted them, and climb up very steep, muddy slopes. And it rains. And if it rains heavily, well, you may come up here thinking you're going to spend days and end up spending weeks because the rivers will become impassable. But it's a marvelous place to be because this is not so much a village as a great ritual center, a holy place. These huge log gongs, this is the mother gong, sound through these mountains to the many people who have their huts scattered in the forest and who will come here for the big ceremonies. It's planted with special ceremonial plants. This is the tanket, the croton plant, which is an essential part of many of the ritual sacrifices. Over here, there are food plants, bananas, pawpaws, coconut, cassava, yam, taro, breadfruit. But they're not just food plants. They also grow other plants that otherwise are only found in some remote parts of these mountains, but whose blossoms and whose leaves are essential for many of the rites that are held here. No woman is allowed anywhere inside this enclosure, and I myself may not pass an invisible line which crosses the path just here. For beyond lies the entrance to the namal, a house that is shielded from view by this palisade of leaves. The namal is the men's sacred house, where all the important tribal decisions are taken, where the great ceremonials are held. No stranger, no white man has ever seen inside a namal. And so we only know what is in there from what the men themselves tell us. But one thing is quite certain. Inside, there are great quantities of carvings and sculptures of all kinds. Malekula Nasser is the most important man here. He knows more about the supernatural world than anyone else, and he will decide whether we may see any sculptures from the namal. A man becomes important by sacrificing pigs in a series of rituals that only the most dedicated can complete in his lifetime. The spirits require not just ordinary pigs, but tuskers that have been specially mutilated. This is the most valuable kind. Its upper tooth was knocked out so that its lower tusk could grow in a complete circle. Malekula Nasser, during his long life, has sacrificed over 300 pigs. By doing so, he's reached such a high grade and become so holy that he is already partly dead, already spending some of his time in the next world among the spirits. It's through him that they convey their wishes to the living. Without warning, a Nampuki spirit has come out of the namal. Normally, this only happens on a day 1 month after the death of an important man. More men emerge from the sacred enclosure. These are Metenyeli boards. The staring eyes represent the unblinking gaze of a dead man, for this is the spirit face that glares down on a boy during the painful, terrifying rites of his initiation. Malekula Nasser is permitting us to see much more than we could have hoped. It was out of the question that we should go inside the namal, but now its sacred objects are being brought out to us. The people tell us the names of each of them. These are Nangar. This, Nemelaloks. They're made from clay and cobwebs. Some incorporate the curving tusks of sacrificed pigs. All undoubtedly are used in the long ceremonial dramas that are enacted in the namal, the cult house. We are taken to an outlying hut. This is not the namal, but a place where other sacred objects are being stored. All these things are so ritually powerful that no woman or child may see them. It may be that the women too have images of their own in houses of their own, but I, as a man, will never be told about that. These boards form the ceiling of the initiation hut where boys are confined for a whole year. And these are the most spectacular of all. A rambaramp is an effigy of a dead man painted with designs that proclaim his status. Its head is his actual skull, fleshed out with clay mixed with vegetable fiber. Malekula Nasser takes us to a special place in the village. Here, beneath a shroud of painted bark, lies the body of his son. Above, symbols of fruit bats and doves. His son died 6 months earlier. The body is now headless, for the skull has been removed and made into a rambaramp, which will be displayed in a great funeral ceremony. The rites are being held for 6 other men, as well as Malekula Nasser's son. It is the biggest funeral ceremony to be held for decades. The women have assembled, carrying branches of croton leaves.
Specially large yams have been grown for the occasion. They will be presented to the spirits of the dead men. This is Iblabnumbump from a nearby village, the only man in all these mountains who has reached a rank higher than Mulumulu Nasur. He alone knows the full rituals. Without a man of his rank, the ceremony could not be held. When he and Mulumulu Nasur are dead, there may be none who knows how to perform a similar service for their spirits. A long screen of leaves has been put up in front of the namal, and above it, mysterious figures begin to dance. The people call these in pidgin Pikanini Blong Rambramp, the children of the Rambramp. Their dances may be the acting out of one of the myths of creation in which they took part in a titanic battle. But no outsider knows exactly what this puppet play does mean. And now the Rambramps appear. More and more are brought out from behind the screen until there are 7 standing in a row. Offerings are piled up in front of the Rambramps, and their living relatives lament before them. Only very high-ranking men like Iblabnumbump are entitled to carry such a ceremonial spear or perform such dances as this, the dance of a man-hawk on its way to heaven. The spirits of the dead have at last received their due in yams, pantomime and dance. They can now rest in peace in the land below the sea. 500 miles away to the northwest, still in Melanesia, the Solomon Islands. Here things are very different. White explorers first came here back in the 16th century, and European influence today is almost overwhelming. This is Lao Lagoon, where the people have built artificial islands of coral blocks in order to escape from the mosquitoes of the mainland and, in the old days, to give themselves protection from marauding headhunters. Even here, one of the remoter parts of the Solomons, Western influence is all-pervasive. In the old days, the Solomon Islanders built cult houses just as they do in the New Hebrides. The last traditional priest in Lao Lagoon took me into his. There was only one sculpture to be seen, a crudely carved image of a bird cut out from a plank. The priest said that he sometimes came to sit here and chant the old songs, but few people ever joined him.
And this fella here? Why now?
Beyond the cold fireplace, a simply carved post containing the skull of his father and a battered tin trunk, in which he said there were other human bones. But once the spirit houses of the Solomons were filled with images as splendid as any in the Pacific, images of the gods. The gods give mana, supernatural power. If a warrior is strong, if a chief is wise, it is because he has mana. Animals and even inanimate things like strangely shaped stones or dangerous reefs possess mana. It is neither good nor bad. It is power. But it all derives from the spirits, and unless they are given sacrifices, they might deny it to a man. Some spirits are those of long-dead ancestors. Others have never inhabited a human body. Spirits, for example, from the realm of the sea. It is such a one as this that a man must placate if he is to ensure success in his hunt for bonito fish, dolphins, or turtles. And the help of spirits may be gained not only by ceremonies in the spirit house, but by enacting in dance and mime the story of a fishing expedition in which a sea spirit comes to the aid of men. A turtle has been spotted, and now the boats must quickly encircle it with nets. Splashing makes a noise underwater, which frightens the turtle and drives it towards the nets. Not a big turtle, but nonetheless a cause for jubilation. It will provide food for a whole family for days. If you live on an island in a lagoon, the one thing you lack is fresh water. And so every day the lagoon people go across to the mainland to collect it and to wash. In the old days, this was the one time when headhunters from the interior could creep up unseen on the islanders from the lagoon and kill. A head was a head, whether it belonged to a warrior or a woman or a child. This construction is one of the last relics of those old savage days. Today, this is a game. A century ago, it was a way for warriors to steel their nerves and train themselves for bravery. Those days are not so long past. Even in 1912, there were plenty of men in the Solomons who needed no encouragement or coaching to demonstrate to a missionary, who was also an enthusiastic amateur filmmaker, how they set out on headhunting raids in tomacos, the black sea-going canoes which they paddled for hundreds of miles through the islands. Even then, the people had enough skulls to set up on poles so that the triumphant warriors could dance around them just as they used to do when they returned from a successful raid. The men wore on their heads discs cut from the shells of giant clams and overlain with a filigree pattern of turtle shell, designed and cut with the greatest delicacy. They carried dancing shields made of plaited cane and covered with a mosaic of pearl shell cut from nautilus. Their paddles, too, were often carved with designs of ancestral spirits, shown squatting in the position in which a man used to be buried. Almost everything connected with the sea was richly decorated. A dolphin spirit, made of blackened wood and inlaid with pearl shell, a technique that was a Solomon speciality. The Nuzu-Nuzu, the all-seeing god which they fixed to the prow of their head-hunting canoes, whose gaze was so ferocious that none would dare cross in front of it. In all the Solomons today, one seaworthy tomoko still survives. It can still reach speeds of 15 knots or more, just as it did when it was one of the most feared craft in the Pacific. Tomacos were up to 50 feet long and could carry 40 warriors. They were made from planks only half an inch thick, sewn together edge to edge with split cane and sealed with the pulp of putty nuts. The old man who made this one is now over 80.
These are cowrie shells, aren't they? Huh? Do they have a special meaning, these?
Arigino di sarina shells here. They are custom decoration.
They're custom decoration. But supposing a tomoko did not have those, why would that be wrong?
Pundelok tonga vinasari go custom ko. Sasasine. It's tomoko would be regarded as ugly.
As ugly? Yeah. Yes, I see.
These decorations after raids in certain places, they are placed here for that thing.
After headhunting raids, you must have
raids,
this, must you?
yes.
Yeah.
One craft flourishes, if anything, more vigorously than ever, the making of shell money. Small pieces of rock oyster shell are roughly chipped into discs with stone hammers. Then they are ground smooth and flat. Each little disc of shell has a hole drilled in its centre using a bow drill tipped with flint. The most sought after and therefore most valuable shell is deep pink. It's difficult to get, but you can turn ordinary white ones pink simply by putting them on a hot stone. Then they are strung and given a final smoothing. And from the one or two villages that make it, shell money is traded to places as far away as parts of New Guinea, 1,000 miles to the west. Here in the Solomons, it is still essential currency for many transactions, and particularly in weddings. The family of a young man is coming to one of the islands in Lao Lagoon to claim a bride for him. The wedding party have brought with them shell money, the bride wealth which the bridegroom's family must by tradition pay to the bride's parents as part of the wedding settlement. Each of these belts is worth about £100 in European currency. There are also necklaces of dolphin teeth. The bride is decked with the riches that she has brought to her parents. As everywhere else, weddings are times of mixed feelings. Husbands rejoice to get wives, but fathers grieve to lose daughters. After this traditional ceremony, the couple will have their marriage consecrated in a Christian church.
For over a century now, Christianity has been preached throughout Melanesia, and that, together with European influence in general, has meant that most of the old religions and practices have disappeared. But now, in the wake of Christianity, new, strange religions have begun to emerge. Odd amalgams of Western practices and the old, traditional ones. Behind me is the southern coast of Guadalcanal in the Solomons, and there, 20 years ago, a man named Moro had a vision. As a result of it, he founded a new religion which today has several thousand followers. We sent a message down to Moro to ask if we might visit him, but we have no idea what sort of reception we're going to get. Welcome. How do you do?
I'm with them. Mr. David. Some people.
Some more come later time.
Later.
Yeah, later.
Only you coming first.
Well, come first now.
Okay. Itu what pay? Si tas mo. Kasama si tas mo. Ani mo na mo buri. So mai.
All right, we go.
Yes, please. Ali di ko.
Thank you.
We move close, please.
Thank you.
There. It's tomorrow.
Good day. Thank Good day. This is very kind of you.
We would like to give you a hearty welcome.
Moro's spokesman is David, once a fully trained teacher in a missionary school.
And then we would like to let you know the main history of this island is a tub. In the beginning there was nothing but darkness. It was Irogali, the creator. Irogali came down to the dry land and formed 3 eggs. 2 of the eggs hatched, and there were 2 dogs. Irogali named them Lawala and Lawili. And there were people without mouth. limbs, and a voice appeared. These people's work is to keep the life and the power exist in the island.
Will you translate for me?
Yes.
Moro and all people from this village.
By Moro Megama people na Komwani.
I would like to thank you on behalf of all my companions for this great welcome that you have given us.
Ina welcome do anak katakusuan.
We know very little in London, where I come from, about the House of Memories here
Manavale memory andigren.
and of all the things that you are teaching your people.
Matona malabagi sanigita ina.
And I give you my thanks and my greetings from all the people that I represent for welcoming us so handsomely.
By now, kwaya kusman ngamu ba tangyo mana tobadaw bangamu or ba gira kan inawul lagi na datain ni mani this year.
Thank you very much indeed.
Tangyo bangamu.
Thank you, Moro. Thank you.
Moro's vision had come to him in a trance. Irogale, the creator, had told him to disregard the Christian God and revive the old ways that were dying. The people must learn once more how to weave and carve and fish in the traditional manner. They must once again become men Blong custom, for that was their birthright. Those ways are their ways. But this revival of old crafts does not mean that everything from the outside world should be ignored. The people should take just what suited them. The white men had special cult houses that they called museums, where they venerated treasures from the past. Very well, the people of Makaruka wanted to do just the same sort of thing, so they too should build such a place. But a stranger might only go into this house of memories if he showed proper reverence to the ancient gods and discarded his alien Western clothes and, like everybody else in the settlement, wore only custom clothes. Reviving old dances is an important part of the life that Moro has planned for his people. Years ago, anthropologists could find no sculpture whatever in this part of the island. All had been destroyed by missionaries or discarded by their Christian converts and carried away by visitors. Moro and his people had been forced, therefore, to reinvent the images they needed for their house of memories. Someone had seen labels on exhibits in the white man's museums, so they provided the same here. The memory of a possum, how the opossum got plenty, that is to say, brought wealth. The memory of Irongali, the creator bird god that Moro saw in his trance. The memory of Lawili, the first man. From the House of Memories, Moro took me to the most holy place of all. It is, in part, the community's treasury, for it's hung with hundreds of strings of shell money.
But what is this on the floor?
Di sawan pidan na.
Na hando basal na buli sal na tui. Patau na lamba tawan na mo.
That's the island.
The island, that's
Yeah,
Isatambu. Yeah. Oh, and this one, he say all these things, huh?
Yes. That's a vision he saw.
You see one of them?
The vision.
And this one?
Mari homba.
The name of a paramount chief
Paramount
from the
chief.
beginning.
So that is
Irongali.
that is Irongali. I understand. And snakes.
Yes.
Are these ordinary snakes or are they spirit snakes?
They're not made by man.
They're not made by man.
They're picked by man, but they're not made by man.
You mean you find them?
Find them from the ground.
You found them in the ground. I see. So no man he cut this.
No man cut.
No man. I see.
When we came out, the people had assembled to hear Morrow talk to me through David, the interpreter.
Why does Morrow keep in the custom house these many things?
He told me before when started that he would like to keep all these memories in order to prove that the people living in the island are true natives of the island. And it also shows that all these things will prove which line owns each part of the ground.
I see.
Whenever they want to build business in the future, nobody will pluck them out.
No mau la la pita. Tal palau. No hon la la pita. No mau. No hai. No rau. No mas. Utan dele. Mas nukia. Mas bolia. Na mu lang kaya sa tanan. Dona. Dito tugon na mo.
This is my land, and I live in the land. Everything that is on the land is mine, and anyone who wants it may pay for it.
Why do Moro's people no longer wear any European clothes?
Yaram sami go people over ten lona. Atalakan ni saglia kololwa.
Orang na mau na custom tu lu tu lu.
This is to show how my people lived in the olden days.
All over the Pacific, people have lost the likenesses of their gods. It seems to many of them that in doing so, they have lost their mana, their power, and that they will never regain their ancient dignity without it. So in Makaruka, Moro and his people are striving to create new images so that they may recapture some of the splendors of their past.